Good afternoon, YouTube. I decided to make this video about the Conservative Party race for leadership. There have been a few candidates who have been sort of on the fence. They're neither in nor out, you could say. Rona Ambrose, Peter MacKay, Pierre Poilievre. One thing I really don't like about politics is that the people that I think are most worthy for the role sometimes try to avoid that responsibility, and they don't want to step up to take the position. They want to further the cause of the party, but they don't actually want to put themselves into the let's call it into the aggressive spotlight, if you will, because when you run for leadership, that is indeed a very dangerous position for you personally, for your family. There's a lot of scrutiny that comes in, and a lot of I can say back alley talking during the debate or in public or wherever from amongst your opponents and whatnot. So really, it's a very great responsibility to enter that role. Peter MacKay has been leader before. He was leader of the Conservatives before the merger. And then Stephen Harper brought the Canadian Alliance and the Conservatives together. And essentially, Peter sort of he gave up the position of leader in favor of Harper. Essentially, I don't know too much about Aaron O'Toole. To me, he's a name in the Conservative Party. I couldn't tell you much about him. I'm sure he's a great candidate, but at this time, I don't know much that can serve my vote toward him. And I watch quite a bit of the House of Commons and whatnot in the debates, and I don't recall him very much. The final candidate, who would be my top pick, would absolutely be Pierre Poilievre. Many of you who watch my channel know that I support him for leadership ever since Scheer resigned. Just because his personality is excellent, for somebody to take that role of leadership. I really believe he's a great public speaker, but that's not the reason to elect him. He's great because he will rip to shreds Trudeau and the Liberal Party like no leader before him. And he enjoys that kind of attack. Any scandal, any problem, you can bet that Poilievre will be forefront in the media, anywhere he can get, and he will be exposing their crimes. So this is an opposition leader who would be fantastic and would pave the road to victory to be Prime Minister, no doubt about it. The problem with Scheer is that when you ask people forthrightly why they either abstain from voting or who would they vote for, they say Scheer was as bad as Trudeau. In essence, Scheer is the same, if not a worser choice than Trudeau. So the on the fence voters basically voted with Trudeau, because they thought that Scheer was incompetent and pretty much more of the same. So essentially, Scheer tanked the hopes for a Conservative victory, and Scheer is the foremost individual responsible for the re-election of Justin Trudeau, because when it came down to it, right down to it, Canadian people did not trust Scheer at all. And there were several things, even amongst Conservatives, that Scheer did that made me doubt his competency many times. Not to mention that on his way out, Scheer actually damaged the reputation of the Conservative Party with that little scandal of his using the Conservative Party treasury to send his kids to school, to a expensive private school. So Pierre Poilievre, this would be my pick. I look at the articles and so on, and people are talking about Rona Ambrose and whatnot, and when I look on YouTube, Pierre Poilievre is the one that they're actually asking for. His YouTube channel, this one 15K hits for Thank You Carlton, 18K for how he criticized Morneau. Pardon me. Canada must stand with persecuted Christians around the world. Pierre would be an optimal choice for me personally. I really enjoy his Trudeau parodies that he put on. The budgets balancing themselves. Trudeau sent me a Christmas present, and they pulls out a scale, and essentially he makes parody of the stupidity of the Liberal Party, and I really enjoy that. I think it's very refreshing. I think he's a young man. He's not an older gentleman, let's say. He's a young man. He's got good ideas, a fresh perspective. He's got such spirit. Pierre Poilievre would be an outstanding opposition leader. If I compare them in percentage-wise, Scheer is absolutely doomed to failure. His chance of victory is maybe 20%. If Pierre had been in power, then I say the victory is about 80% assured. Just because the way he represents himself, he's a great orator. Pierre Poilievre is a great orator. When he tried to make his point across, you hear it very clearly, concisely in English and French, and it's wonderful to hear him speak on any issue. And you get the feeling like Pierre, you could question him on any issue and he'd have an answer for you no matter what. So I think if Pierre doesn't run, it'll be a tragedy for Canada. At the very least, he should try and put his hat in the ring and see what happens. Just see. He cannot lose status or publicity by trying. He can only grow his popularity because I seriously doubt that if he comes up, that he's very, very good at answering questions and putting the point across. He's very good at attacking the Liberals. He's an excellent Liberal critique. The best Liberal critique, in my opinion. And when you look at how he keeps chasing down the issues that are very, very important to Canadians right now, this guy is at the forefront of that argument. So I want to make this video nice and short and concise. So I will just say that I support Pierre Poilievre in his endeavors, his future endeavors, and I hope that he runs. That is absolutely my hope. The other candidate, Rona Ambrose, maybe, but I think she has no desire to run, really. So Pierre Poilievre, absolutely the optimal candidate for the leadership, and the Conservative Party's greatest asset, one of them. The way that he attacks, it's a thing of beauty, I tell you. It's comedic. He's got a great sense of humor. He's very charismatic, and when I see him in politics, he loves attacking the Liberals, and I think it would be, as a leader, it would be just the perfect position for him to fall into, to amplify that effect. And as opposition leader, he'd get a lot more publicity. His message could get easier across the country. More people know his name and so on, and his popularity will grow. In my understanding and my idea, this individual would just click with the position, and he would click into the role of Prime Minister as well. So easily he'd fall into it. The question is, his personal principle, his family. This kind of person, he had a lot of reasons to be apprehensive of power, and that makes him wise, not stupid. So I hope for Pierre Poilievre. I really do. If by chance he can be elected prime minister one day, if he chooses to run for leadership, I'm convinced that he could win. I might not have all the figures of popularity, but his message to me is very, very clear, and it hits home. It's not a convoluted message. It's the truth, plain and simple, and it's perfect. If he runs, I'm very, very grateful to him. I hope that he can find the courage to make that move. So thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you can comment what you think. There's a lot of popularity about Pierre on YouTube, so just comment below what you think about him, and thank you again for your attention. Bye-bye.